Have you ever noticed how some brands that seem to be everywhere, just vanish online? It's a weird phenomenon. Well, the answer, believe it or not, comes from a really tragic story from the dawn of the jet age. So let's take a look at this incredible aircraft and see what its ghost can teach us about surviving in the age of AI. Yeah, this quote just hits the nail on the head, right? It's this powerful idea that being fast, being innovative, it's all completely worthless if you don't have a stable foundation underneath. Definitely keep that thought in your back pocket as we go through this. All right, so let's rewind the clock. We're going back to the early 1950s. This was a time of just incredible optimism, huge leaps in technology, and we're about to meet the world's very first commercial jetliner. So in May of 1952, the de Havilland Comet was an absolute marvel. I mean, this thing flew twice as fast as the old propeller planes. It was literally cutting travel times in half. It was the future. And for about 2 years, it was king of the skies. But then, disaster struck. In January 1954, a comet just disintegrated in midair. And then, only 3 months later, it happened again. The entire fleet was grounded. The dream had become a total nightmare. So what on earth went wrong? After this massive investigation, they found the culprit: metal fatigue. You see, the engineers, in a critical oversight, had designed the jet with square windows. And at those high altitudes, at those incredible speeds, the corners of those square windows created tiny, invisible stress fractures. The jet's own amazing speed was literally tearing it apart. And this is the big lesson. This is the whole point of the story. The Comet was a masterpiece of velocity, no doubt about it, but its underlying structure was fatally flawed. The lesson is simple, but it is so profound. Speed without structure is catastrophic. Okay, I know what you're thinking. A 70-year-old airplane? What in the world does that have to do with my brand's visibility online? Well, the connection is actually shockingly direct, and it brings us to a very modern problem I like to call identity drift. So identity drift is basically the digital version of metal fatigue. It's what happens when your brand keeps changing its story faster than AI can keep up. Think about a startup that calls itself a collaboration tool, then pivots to being a productivity platform, and then a few months later decides it's a workflow automation service. All these inconsistent signals, they just confuse the AI systems and they start to misclassify you. Or worse, they just forget you exist. I mean, when you put it side by side like this, the parallel is it's undeniable. The Comet Square windows were these physical weak points that couldn't handle the pressure. For your brand, inconsistent signals, like constant rebrands or new messaging, are semantic weak points in the eyes of an AI. For the jet, the result was a catastrophic structural failure. For your brand, the result is identity drift and a total collapse of your online visibility. So the big question is, why is this happening now more than ever? Well, the answer really gets down to the fundamental way that AI systems work. These systems that are now in charge of pretty much all search and information discovery. And that is a fantastic question because, for years and years, being new and trendy and always changing, that felt like the goal. But AI has completely flipped the script. This slide right here, this is the whole game. Old search algorithms might have chased trends, but AIs are fundamentally different. They are built to find and stabilize patterns. Think of them as trying to build a consistent, verifiable encyclopedia about the world. And when your brand's information is stable and consistent, you become a trusted, reliable entry in that encyclopedia. Constantly changing for the sake of it, to an AI, that's not innovation, it's just noise. So just think about all the things we do. When you're constantly changing your company name, or tweaking your service descriptions, or hopping between categories, or changing up your core messaging, you're basically creating semantic instability. Every single one of those changes forces the AI to second-guess what it knows about you. It weakens the confident connections it's already made about who you are and what you actually do. And here's the painful consequence. Just like the Aviation Authority grounded that entire fleet of Comet jets because they were unsafe, an AI that can't classify you with confidence will effectively ground you. You start disappearing from search results. You get left out of those generative AI answers. Your visibility just tanks because the AI simply doesn't trust the signals you're sending anymore. Okay, so we've laid out the problem, and it's a pretty scary one. But now let's talk about the solution. It's called the Identity Stability Framework, and it's all about building a structure that can handle speed. It all starts right here with the foundation. Before you even think about launching that next product or pivoting your message, you have to define your core identity.
What I mean is creating crystal clear, consistent definitions for your discipline, your services, your methods. This becomes the bedrock, the structural truth that an AI can understand and, more importantly, trust.
Okay, next up, once you have that rock-solid definition, you have to reinforce it. And I mean everywhere. You need to be using the exact same language on your website, your social media, in press releases, even in your job descriptions. Repetition is how you build memory and trust with these AI systems. This is how you build what's called machine trust. And here's the payoff. It's only after you've built that foundation and you've reinforced it again and again that you can safely hit the accelerator. Sure, go ahead and launch new products, refine your messaging, but every change has to be documented and semantically linked back to that core identity you established. That's how you grow without causing that dangerous, catastrophic drift. So, how do we actually put this all into practice? Let's turn this theory into some clear, actionable steps you can take to build an identity that's really built to last. All right, here are 4 steps you can start with today. First, audit your identity. Go to the generative AI tools we have now and just ask them about your company. Ask who your competitors are, ask what you're known for. The answers might really surprise you, and they will absolutely show you where the drift is happening. Second, stabilize your core identity. Create an internal source of truth document. Lock in your category, your core terms, your value prop. Make it non-negotiable. Third, reinforce it everywhere. This has to be a company-wide thing. Marketing, sales, product, everyone has to be singing from the same hymn sheet. Consistency is everything. And finally, number 4, evolve with documentation. When you do need to pivot or launch something new, create a public record of it, like a blog post that clearly explains the change, defines the new terms, and, this is crucial, explicitly connects them back to the old ones. You're giving the AI a breadcrumb trail to follow. So, when you boil it all down, it comes back to this. The story of the Havilland Comet, it isn't just a history lesson. It's a profound warning for all of us today. In this race for attention and visibility, it is so tempting to prioritize speed over everything else. But as we've seen, that's a fatal mistake. So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. Is your brand built for speed, or is it built to last?